Hello everyone, I'm Leifkicker.
And I'm the Bean.
Stay tuned and you can watch me make the first one of these.
But first, let's look at these.
One of our Patreon members, Tyler, had a special request for a Necropotence themed skull, and here's how it turned out. As usual, the skulls will hold 100 double sleeve cards and they have room in the mouth for dice. Got that little image from the card right here on the top and gave it a bit more of a dirty wash look to it that matched the skull in the picture better. And here's the inside. This is skull number 152. Thanks for the idea, Tyler. This turned out great.
Another one! It glows! So this box is going to one of our Patreon members all the way in Singapore. So yes, we do ship worldwide. I get that question a lot. And as always, this is gonna hold 100 double sleeve cards and have a spot for dice for you. Now, let's check out the casting process for that dragon skull.
We've got the first half of the molds poured, and our next step is going to be to go through each piece and clean off the clay, clean off the silicone that we don't need, and remount it in its box. This one needs pried off. We didn't need to use clay like we made the second half. We were able to use the board. So we'll pull all these out. So the second half will mold inside each one of these keys, and we need to pull all the clay out of this side, and we'll put 2 sprues on this so that the air can get out. The last time you saw this, I was doing a full board of a second half, or the mold, with the clay up. This one pulled off real easy. The clay was all the way out here. I decided to change that up, reduce the amount of silicone I was going to need, and we also added these little fingers to the mold. So that was replicated on this side. So I'll put this back in the mold box after I clean all this extra silicone off, and we'll cover this with some type of petroleum jelly so the silicone doesn't stick, and we'll make our second half. This one is going to be much like the horns. See the clay buildup I did to build the second half that we're going to make now, and I did the same thing that I did to the jaw. We reduced the amount of silicone we're going to need and added fingers to it. So I'm going to go through, have to pull all this clay off. Hopefully it comes up real easy. And we'll get this cleaned up for the second half of the mold, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like before we pour. We've got everything cleaned up. I went back through and coated all the silicone with a petroleum jelly so the second layer of silicone would not stick. And we did add some sprues right here. I just missed it. When I was designing the piece, I wasn't considering this little bump, and if I don't put a sprue right here, we're gonna have air bubbles. So that has been solved, hopefully. We'll see how that comes out in the casting. That's what the jaw is going to look like. Again, everything's been coated with petroleum jelly on the silicone only. We don't put it on the piece. And this is what the horns and the lid is going to look like. These have spent the night in the pressure pot, and I've already removed the wood frame, and we're going to go through and try to pull these apart. Hopefully everything worked out as planned. And just like that, easy peasy. So now we have a mold that can replicate these horns. We'll have to go through and clean up all this little bit of flashing on the silicone, make the mold a little nicer to hold when we're doing our castings, and clear out these holes. But this one turned out great. The molds are put back together and ready to go. We've got them wrapped with some rubber bands, sandwiched in between these boards, so the mold is held together, but we're not squishing it so much that it's deformed. We're going to be casting the horns first. We'll be pouring into these 2 holes. And for the product, we'll be using this tough cast. This really makes a durable horn, so it's going to stand up to some wear. It's a quick work time, only 2 minutes, so we got to go when we're working on this one. And we will be using a little bit of dye and some micro powders to get the right color. The next 3 pieces that we're going to make are going to be made out of this Model Pro Slow from SRC. It's a great resin, has a long enough cure time that we have plenty of time to work with the molds, and this one really dries and cures a nice bone white, which is great for a skull. Next up will be the jaw, and like the horns, we've got it sandwiched together between two boards. We're hoping that we don't have any leakage down here, so we will find out on our very first pour. The last one we're going to do is the dragon skull, and this is what we did for this one. Got them all mished together. That should be enough. We're going to pour in through these vent holes, and the air will vent out here. So here we go, off to the pressure pot. The resin is cured, the boards have been removed. It's time to take the piece out, see how they turned. This is the lid. I'm going to try not to break those two sprues off. This is the jaw. And the last piece is going to be the main deck box itself. It turned out really good. Yeah, this will make a nice box. All of the molds, we're going to have to go through and clean everything back up so we can do another casting. We'll be able to make about 20 to 25 more castings out of this mold. Our next step for the casting is to go through and clean off all the sprues and any of the flashing with the rotary tool and get this ready for paint. We're going to zip through the next part of the video. In this, you'll see me trim down the bits that we need for the skull, glue in the magnets, get it all assembled, and fill any holes that we find on the way that we don't like with some of this magic sculpt. Hopefully when we come back in the end, we'll have a nice piece ready for paint.
Nice piece, ready to paint.
Come back next week and we'll show you how that's done.
Thanks for watching.
That was a good one. Use that one. Cut! Woman!
Nice piece, ready to paint.
Come back next week and I'll show you how it's done.
for watching.
Those magnets are strong.
So strong.
Not that strong though.
They are. Well, at least one hand. Oh, fuck.